Squiz Kids acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands on which we podcast, the Turrbal and Kombumerri people.
Hey kids, before we get into today's Squiz, I've got a special announcement to make. It's the return of the Squiz Kids Q&A, the podcast where you, the kids of Australia, get to ask the questions. And our first guest back is none other than the Federal Education Minister himself, Jason Clare. This is your chance to ask the man who's in charge of education and schools in Australia any question you like. As in, any question you like. Maybe you want to ask him how he does his job, where he went to school himself, who was his favourite teacher and what were his favourite subjects. Or maybe you want to ask him what it's like to work in Parliament House, whether he's as worried about fake news and misinformation as Squizzy the Newshound, or what his number one goal is as Education Minister. Or maybe you just want to ask him why we have to go to school at all, or why the tuck shop doesn't give away free ice cream. It's up to you. You're in the driver's seat. Jason Clare is in the hot seat. Teachers, parents, feel free to send in a bunch of questions from your class or family. The more, the merrier. But here's the catch. You'll need to hurry. We need your questions in by next Wednesday, which doesn't give you a whole lot of time. Send them to squizkids@thesquiz.com.au and we'll put the best 10 questions to the Minister when we sit down with him.
Squiz Kids!
It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.
Hello, faithful Squiz Kids listeners, and welcome to the Kids vs. Adults Weekly News Squiz. Your chance to see who's had their listening ears on and been paying the most attention to the week that just was. I'm Bryce Corbett. All week in the Squiz Kids Today podcast, we've been bringing you the big news stories of the day, run through our kid-friendly filter to make sure you know all you need to know about the world around you. Now, it's time to test how much of the week's news you've retained, and in the process, see who's smarter, kids or adults. Plus, of course, because it's a Friday, we've got all today's birthday shout-outs and all the shout-outs for the weekend coming, including the birthday reggae tune, because it wouldn't be a Friday without it. So, here's how the quiz works. 5 questions for kids about the weekend news, then 5 questions for adults. Whoever answers the most correct questions wins. Simples. You ready? Let's do this. All right, kids, here are your 5 questions. Question number 1. Let's kick things off with a sports question. Which AFL player, whose name makes it sound like he'd be a great pal, played his final game for the Sydney Swans last weekend? Yes, of course it was Buddy Franklin. Question number 2. This week, we heard in the podcast how the London Zoo had the humongous task of doing what to every one of their 14,000 animals? Was it A, clipping their toenails, B, weighing and measuring them, or C, giving them a bath? Yeah, that's right, it was clipping their No, it was B, weighing and measuring them. Question number 3. Which lunar event that only occurs very rarely did stargazers have the chance to see on Wednesday and Thursday this week? Yeah, that's right, it was a blue supermoon. Question number 4. This one's a true or false question. True or false? Evidence proving the existence of the Loch Ness Monster was discovered this week by scientists using sounds and heat-seeking equipment in the famous Scottish loch. No, the answer sadly is false. Question number 5. And finally, which very important event did Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announce will be taking place on October 14 later this year? Yes, that's right, it's the referendum on an Indigenous voice to Parliament. How did you go, kids? How many did you get right out of 5? Do you reckon that's enough to beat the adults? Yeah, I reckon so too. Okay, adults, now it's your turn. Fire up the grey matter. Here we go. Question number 1. Let's start off with a true or false question on referendums. True or false? 12 of Australia's 44 previous referendums to alter the Constitution have been successful. It's false. There have in fact only been 8 that have succeeded. Question number 2. Which pop superstar, who'll be visiting Australia later this year, sang a tribute to former Socceroos coach Ange Postecoglou after hearing the fans of his new team Tottenham Hotspur's rendition of his song? Yeah, well done if you said Robbie Williams. Question number 3. Which Gen Z food obsession has racked up 9.6 billion views on the video sharing platform TikTok, driving an increase in sales of 55% over the last year? Is it A, pickles, B, cookies, or C, insects? It is in fact pickles. Question number 4. One particular photograph went viral this week. It has been plastered all over merchandise. It's on t-shirts, coffee mugs and caps and has raised more than $11 million for one US presidential candidate. What is that photo? Yes, of course, it is in fact Donald Trump's mugshot. Question number 5. As we heard in the podcast this week, which annual event held in Wales this week saw participants strip down, don fancy swimming caps, and plunge into some very murky water? Was it A, the Bog Snorkelling Championships, B, the Commonwealth Games Trials, or C, the Cardiff Triathlon? Yes, well done if you said A, the Bog Snorkelling Championships. How did you go, adults? How many did you get right? Did you beat the kids? Who won bragging rights this week? If you've missed any of these cool news stories throughout the week and you want to refresh your memory, all of this week's Squiz Kids episodes are available for a re-listen wherever you get your podcasts. Well, that's the end of the quiz, which means it's time for...
Shout-outs.
It's Friday, September 1, the first day of spring in the southern hemisphere, while the northern part of the world moves into autumn. Let's hope things start cooling down for the folks up there. It's also a Friday, and you know what that means. Heaps of birthday shout-outs for today and the coming weekend, for which I reckon we need to crack out the old birthday reggae tune. Hit it! Happy birthday today to Sarah from Cannon Hill, Ava and Max from Oyster Bay, Zia from Woongarra, Sophia from Brisbane, Nina from Helensvale, Sansa from Coolungalok, David from Holland Park West, Emma from Roseville, Henry from Toowoomba, Miller from Currumbin Beach, Colin from Mount Gravatt, Melissa from Point Cook, and Gabrielle from Arana Hills. And celebrating a birthday over the coming weekend are Brittany from Sydney, Tilly from Narromburn, Wilbur from Jerilderie, Nate and Jake from Parabadoo, Sia from Wheelers Hill, Vivian from Vaucluse, Max from The Gap, and Inara from Pakenham. Well, that's all we have time for. I hope you're enjoying these quizzes. Don't forget, there'll be a new one dropping first thing every Friday morning. And the best bit? They're absolutely free. Just as all our other excellent content is also free. We're talking a Squiz Kids Today news podcast on Mondays, Wednesdays and Thursdays, a Squiz Kids Shortcut or a Squiz the World every Tuesday, and for all the teachers out there, there's a Classroom Companion, our teacher-produced daily classroom activity sheets, curriculum aligned and tied to the daily podcast twice a week, now on Mondays and Wednesdays. Genius. Check it all out at squizkids.com.au or simply subscribe to Squiz Kids in your favourite podcasting app and all this groovy content will magically appear. For now though, this is Bryce Corbett signing off and reminding you all to get out there and have a most excellent day. Over and out.